Hello, internet. So I got a really good comment on the recognizing how new players get stuck video from an account named Pixar Guy. I don't know. It's a camera thing. Don't know how you pronounce your name. Apologies. But the comment was excellent. He asked a couple of really good questions that are on point. So I wanted to address those in a video because he should know and everyone else should know too. And this is something that I feel like I have mentioned in videos, but I didn't clarify adequately because there's still questions about it. So his comment: really enjoying your instruction. Thanks for the content. You've nailed down a ton of things with backhand form. There are two things you emphasize that either mustn't be necessary or it would make one of the world's longest throwers even more efficient. I can't decide. I do think they are necessary for beginning and intermediate players. I do not think they're necessary for high level players because high level players know how to throw already. So I'm presenting a progression that makes little tweaks to optimize for getting you to feel it right the first time. So this is stupid. I am your dad holding the back of the bicycle while you ride, helping you out a little bit for the first time. I am your training wheels. Once you feel it on your own, then you can try to throw more like Simon with a turned back foot and a flat plant and not do the things I'm saying. So it's a progression, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I maybe some of the world's longest throwers would be more efficient if they did the stuff that I'm talking about, but to make a case of Drew Gibson, I studied the same way you studied overthrows footage of Simon. I did that with Drew. The footage of Drew, like that song is burned into my brain. I have spent more than several hours watching the content of Drew. Josh, you're welcome for the 20 cents of ad revenue. But it's really good footage and they're really good players. And emulating them is something to be desired. But anyways, the point is the way Drew Gibson threw in that footage is slightly different than the way that Drew Gibson throws now, as recorded in the footage that Anthony Bodanza has of Drew coaching him. Drew lets his hips spin through more now than he used to. So in that case, do I think Drew would throw farther if he threw with my form? Yes, I do. I think consciously or subconsciously he knows that, and he has chosen to optimize for consistency over raw power and distance. So the way that Wiggins throws is kind of more the way that Drew used to throw, but Drew always has this weird thing with like his timing is so quick that he gets a lot of power even though it doesn't look like he should. But anyways, getting off track. So back to the comment. I watched Simon Lazat's slow motion from overthrow disc golf religiously, and he is, in my opinion, one of the smoothest, most effortless looking players that constantly crushes. Yeah, he's got really good timing. He's got really good form. So on to the questions. Number one, emphasis on a shorter X step. Simon does not have a short X step necessarily, as it looks like the width of his shoulders, essentially. Yeah, I'll address that before going on to the next one. Simon knows how to throw. When you're learning, you don't know how to throw. When you take a long X step, it tends to turn you backwards and get your weight tipped backwards. From this position, you are screwed. That's the technical term. Because from here, you have to crank your spine over and you have to open your front foot, and now you're in horse stance and you can't move your hips, and your spine moved a bunch, which is slow. So if you can keep the principles, which are stay centered, stay lateral to where you're moving sideways, and still take a big X step, sure, do it. If you can take a big X step and stay like that was shoulder width, right? You can take a big X step and stay floaty on that step and keep your mechanics right and not get turned backwards, sure, go for it. Not many people can do that. Most players take too big of a next step and turn around backwards, and then nothing good can happen. So I'm cueing a short X step because I'm putting more value on staying lateral and shifting laterally and having good mechanics. You're not going to learn good mechanics at warp speed. If you James Conrad down the T-pad, the chances of you bracing well are about as good as the chances of James Conrad bracing well. He doesn't need to brace well to win worlds. I do. So I'm going to coach to bracing, not doing something that's not repeatable. So that's the X step. I think it should be short while you're learning. And then once you have learned and are throwing, 400, 450, whatever you're comfortable with, then you can loosen it up and see if you get more distance from a longer X step. You probably will. But if you start with a long X step, you're not ever going to learn the mechanics that I'm trying to get you to. So that's the first question. Second question, toes pointed inward, or at least perpendicular right before the brace. Simon's plant foot lands perpendicular, which I admitted was okay, but you can see his trail foot is open to the back like 30 or 45 degrees. So again, correct. Excellent question. Most pros do let this foot open 45 degrees and then throw very well from there. They usually have this at least 90 degrees closed, if not more. I think Simon, I checked one of the clips from overthrows footage and it looks like he's pretty flat, but I think he does actually go toe to heel a little bit with a slight heel forward angle. So check the rest of his throws, see if you think that's happening or not. Reference angles can be kind of hard to tell, but I think he's actually sneaking a little bit heel forward to where the weight does pour into the heel and let him rock toe to heel and shift the way that is most productive. But again, what I'm doing is training wheels. If beginning players have a tendency to turn too far back too early, I'm going to cue this foot to be straight to fight that. I want you to keep your shoulders this way. So if you keep your toe this way, that'll happen. If you turn your toe backwards, you'll turn this backwards too early. I want the shoulders to turn backwards, not here, but here as you're coming off of the X step. Then you get to your reach back position at the right time. Then you can accelerate out of it without over accelerating out of it and ending up dumping too far forward. So I'm worried about what happens before what happens, because if you try to fix what happens on the front end by changing what happens on the front end, it's too late. You've already set it up wrong a step or two ago, and you can't make the change you want to. That's why so many corrections that get thrown around online don't work. Like, bring your elbow up. Sure, like if you could do that, it would be awesome. But a better correction in that case is, if my elbow is here, don't bring your elbow up. That's really hard. Bring your shoulders down, right? Then your plane makes sense. So it's kind of backing up a step and offering the correction there. So did I cover that adequately? So again, Simon is doing what works for Simon because he knows how to throw already. If you know how to throw already and what you're doing works and you are comfortable with your distance, that's great. If not, my cues of keeping this here 90 and keeping this 45 degrees forward might help you have an easier time feeling a good brace for the first time or finding some improvement there. So that's that one. Then he goes on, do you have any thoughts on this? Would it make Simon more efficient than he already is if you made these changes? Simon, probably not. Drew, probably yes. If he were to throw more like Wiggins, I think he could throw farther. But he has chosen to not do that. There's a spectrum of raw power to optimizing a little bit more for more consistent accuracy, and I think Drew is happy with his distance, so he doesn't need to go full Wiggins. He can tone it down and more consistently hit gaps at 400 feet with a buzz because he's Drew, and he's made that his game and it works. There's nothing wrong with that. Were he to enter a distance competition, I think we would see him throw more like Wiggins. Remains to be seen. If you know Drew, tell him to get into distance comp, and let's see. So back to the question. Would Simon be more efficient than he is already if he made these changes? Probably not. I think he's probably accurately optimized for his body. Or do I think that those things might not be important to implement? So again, I think they're not important for pros to implement. I think they are important for beginners especially and amateur players to implement. Reprogramming muscle memory is stupid hard, yes. And I don't want to venture down that road if it's not necessary, but if it is, I will. So I absolutely think it's necessary. I think if you want to increase your distance, you have to progress past your old muscle memory and do something that works better. And that shouldn't be blind flailing, right? That should be someone with more experience than you giving you some guidance, or you intelligently choosing from an array of options which one you think is going to be most productive and testing it and seeing what works for you. So, excellent question. Thank you so much. I hope that response is adequate. If you have any questions, of course, reach back out. I'll tag you in a reply to that comment, and this will be on the channel. Thank you so much, Pixar guy, for the great question. Love it. Keep it up. Thank you, sir. See you.